But for real, folks. All
No,
right.
now we're really coming at you. This is the Brooklyn Bound podcast. I'm Jason.
Laughs included.
I'm Jason Truding. This is my good friend who we've met over Zoom, and we've only talked in this configuration where I see Raquel's upright piano and she sees my door. That's so far the extent. It's going to be so lovely when we hang out in other places.
In person.
Raquel, Acevedo, Klein. Thanks for talking to me today.
Of course. Anytime. Always happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I think we nailed that. This is kind of your first time on Brooklyn Bound. It's kind of your second time because you made a amazing video that we ended up showing on Brooklyn Bound for our Finola Jam, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Thank you for doing that. It's beautiful.
It was fun. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah, we should talk about that kind of stuff too. But I think I told you we always in these podcasts kind of start in the same space, and the first question is just like the biggest, and it's something that I don't know, like, or just the broadest. Like what has brought you to music? Like, when did you become a musician? What is like little Raquel discovers music and gets excited about her passion? How?
Oh boy, that is a big question.
It is, but it's fun.
Yeah, so many things. I think what I was brought into initially are the very things that I maintain musically now. And that was like, I started, as many people do, when you're 6 years old, you start piano lessons, but the piano teacher that I got started with is the piano teacher that I still take lessons with today. Awesome. And the reason being that she like instilled this huge philosophy for me as a musician, which is, studying different kinds of music. Mainly for me, it was jazz harmony, classical music alongside each other. Also the importance of improvisation and how that really kind of hones your craft as not just somebody who plays music on a page, but also just somebody who is musical. And what do you like listening for? So that was a big part of it. And then in the very same year that I started piano lessons, I joined the Brooklyn Youth Chorus, which was like a big part of my life, in that it, from a very early age, let's say like middle school, introduced me to new music, and for most people, it's like, you study classical music and then maybe eventually, you get to know the composers within that are living, not just like old dead people. but you get to engage with living composers and living music. So I got to do that as a little kid, and therefore that was like what inspired me to eventually go into like music school and conservatory training and all of the like, established.
So this practices. Is like your first piano teacher, and so this is in Brooklyn. You're living in Brooklyn, and your first piano teacher was. You didn't join the youth course. When did you join the youth course?
I was same age. Yeah, I was 6. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I didn't know. I think I didn't know it included such youngins.
Yeah, I mean, well, they actually made the age a little bit higher after I joined, but yeah, I was really young.
Wow, that's amazing. So cool.
And like a few years in, the first piece of music that I had ever done that was new music, like a piece that had never been done with before, was a set of pieces by Nico Muhly. So I was just like, all right.
Jumped in. This is cool.
Jumped right into it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And got to meet him and like work with him. So I was like, oh, okay. I fell in love with his music. So then I was just like, okay, we're gonna get to know these people.
Cool. Wow. Like, I think, yeah, I mean, I feel like the first time I saw the Brooklyn Youth Chorus, it's funny because a good friend, Grace Rowe, you must know Grace.
I love Grace.
Yeah. She produced one of our first albums, and
that's
she's,
right.
Like
with
kind of in our scene with, totally.
Yeah.
And Charles engineered it. Absolutely. But then I think like, on field trips, on Brooklyn Youth Chorus field trips, she would be hanging. But like in London, I think, right? You guys sang like Bryce's and Richie's stuff.
Bryce,
in
London,
I think. And
Bryce has been a big part of, well, I'm old. I met like Bryce, who I love. I met when I was in high school, which was like the first introduction that he had to Brooklyn Youth Chorus. So like, and they now have like a very established relationship.
Yeah.
but Nico was the one who introduced Bryce to us. And I I don't know. I just like what was really funny. It's funny you mentioned Bryce because I was listening to like the National and all of these bands outside of Brooklyn Youth Chorus. But then there was this like one time where like I see Bryce's name on a piece of music that was being introduced like for a first rehearsal. I was like, say what? Like,
Yeah, what's happening?
What's
Yeah.
happening? So I asked her, I was like, wait, is this Bryce Dessner, like Nashville, all this stuff? And then lo and behold, yeah, Bryce starts working with us. And then I think as the evolution of the chorus started to happen, all of these projects and things. So it was cool to be, I loved kind of being there for the beginning of that relationship. And then alongside that, as I was growing up, you know, I maintained these kind of personal one-on-one connections with these people because I was that kind of person who, being fans of these people already, and being able to like make music with them, um, it was just nice to kind of build a personal relationship based on that.
Yeah.
And I was like old enough to not be a like, you know, a little chorister.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you still?
Yeah.
I want to go back and catch up
Totally.
on some of the things. But do you still? I think. Do you still work with the youth chorus? Are you still involved at
Yeah,
all?
I mean,
Not as.
totally. When I was like done with college, the first job I had out of college was, I mean, a little bit before I finished college too. I started conducting the Brooklyn Youth Chorus. So I've like conducted the concert ensemble, which is like the performing ensemble. Whenever you know Diane Birkin, Maneker, the founder, can't do a concert or something like that, and was teaching all of the ensembles, the training ensembles there too. So that was like, yeah, that was like a
Awesome.
big part of my life that started
Amazing.
when I started piano.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you, I'm gathering maybe you went to school in New York. So when you got to college,
that.
or what was? Yeah.
You could
So
say
what was?
that.
Okay, you get done with high school, out of the Brooklyn Youth Chorus scene,
I
still playing piano. You go.
I went to Crane School of Music, which is in New York, but like the furthest like away from New York you could possibly
Wait,
go
which one?
before
Where's
getting into
Crane?
Canada. It's in
Oh,
like the
yeah.
middle of nowhere forest of
Yeah,
Potsdam, New York.
yeah, totally.
It's
Yeah.
an Arctic tundra, and the funny thing about going to school there was I it you could not get there easily. Like it was like a 10-hour bus ride just to get there, and like
Yeah.
one bus a day. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like going to New Haven or something.
Yeah.
But the reason why I mentioned that very specific detail is that I was here every weekend doing shows and things, and so
You were bussing it.
so I was taking an awful bus ride each weekend just to like maintain, gigs and concerts and engagements here
Oh
while
my
I was
goodness.
away at school because
Yeah.
I felt like, it's one thing to study music, it's another to just be, immersed in the communities, the musical community, and just shows and things that are here because
Yeah.
I'm as much uh, I'm so grateful for the gift of music, but the gift of people that play music and that I get to play with are just like, it creates like a fullness in life that is so warm and wonderful. Collaboration for me, I think, is everything.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to lose that by going away to school and like taking classes.
I wonder which way. So
Yeah.
I went to school in Rochester. So not
yeah.
maybe not as
Yeah.
far as, but like solid.
But yeah,
And
no, that's a good
I
show.
would do the bus thing. I would definitely bus in New York, but then do you know Troy, New York? There's
Yeah,
that
I do.
beautiful hall there, right?
That's right.
Troy Savings Bank Music Hall, or what, Impact. Yeah, no, but before this it was the Troy Savings Bank Music Hall, and they had a jazz series where like, Wayne Shorter would play, or Herbie Hancock, or Keith Jarrett, or whatever.
Oh,
and so we would bus down from Rochester to there to see the show, and then you're busing back in the middle of the night. But I just, all those, Schenectady, Utica, so like all the things I remember on this bus, like where am I, what's happening.
Oh my goodness.
You had a longer, I think, even longer.
But all of those places,
but you hit all those places
on the way. Yeah, on the way.
Oh my goodness.
Grueling.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, awesome. Okay, so I think we finally, I think I don't know, sometime close to the pandemic, but before the pandemic, we played up at Crane. I think we played up in Potts.
Really?
I'm
This is okay. Really interesting detail. So when I was in high school, I started taking composition lessons with Bill Britell,
awesome.
and so like became like really well aware of like New Amsterdam records and all of this stuff. And one of the first records that Bill Britell gave me was Janus Trio,
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
which is your wife's trio.
Beth, right
Yeah.
over there, probably somewhere.
And Janus Trio came to Crane, and I remember her playing and workshopping a bunch of like composition students' pieces while I was
Awesome.
there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it was like that was like a nice exchange.
I love that.
I don't think I actually met her, but I just remembered. I remember that.
Well, it's funny because so we first met at Summer Institute. It's kind of weird. I feel so weird because everybody we brought in to talk, you'd be like, hey, like you knew everybody already. So the fact that we didn't know each other somehow just from the scene is wild to me. But I love that record, and there's so much good music on there. Angelica's pieces on there, and it's a very cool record. I listened
to that over and over and over. So
that's really cool. But what I was thinking in another world, when Sosie's not online, you would know Beth much better now, and so there's
I'd love to actually
world.
Meet her.
Yes, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to that world. Well, that's awesome. So you did 4 years there or whatever you did. Your undergrad.
I finished a little early because I like overloaded on credits and was like, I need to get out of school.
I need to get back home. I need to get back. Yeah. And so did you move back to Brooklyn? Was that your transition?
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to, when I was in high school, I was like, oh, I gotta get out of the city. I've been here too long. I was like, what am I thinking?
Like, I gotta get back to the city. I've been away for too long. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So I do want to, of course, talk about what you're doing on Brooklyn Bound, but just in a bigger context. I mean, we were talking about. I see your name everywhere, doing fun things. You've just been conducting. Have you been conducting an opera? Is that what was just happening most recently?
Yeah, we just did a live like radio opera. So what was cool about doing this is that we're working with multiple mediums, in that we had two directors. We had one that's for an eventual film that we'll make. But we wanted to make this iteration of it, which was like the first kind of workshopping, seeing if this is like worth doing, like all that kind of stuff. We wanted to do a completely auditory experience, so that if you were to like turn the lights off, turn off your screens for a moment, you could feel immersed in almost like this virtual or just like this alternative reality. So the opera employed all of these different musical devices, one being Foley. So using, as I'm sure you've created through percussion.
But yeah, Foley is an art. It's amazing.
And so one of the co-composers, who's a really good friend of mine, Skip Shirey, he's like this incredible Foley artist that uses different materials to create sounds that evoke different emotions, different places and time. And another good, friend of mine, Paola Prestini, they essentially collaborated to create a musical storytelling of two journalists that are being held captive as a result of, reporting the news in a foreign country. So,
and is this based on a true? Is this a?
Oh yeah,
true,
it's based on an unfortunate but very real reality for journalists on a day-to-day basis, especially because the world, as a result of the last 4 years, has just created a war on the press. So we wanted to do this opera now to just kind of comment on that, and to also give voice to these untold stories of people who are kind of going through this trauma, where they're totally held hostage and captive. Well, we too, in our own way during the pandemic, just in our confined spaces.
Well, I love it's really fun to talk to you for many reasons. But everybody you mentioned, we did a show with Skip back in the day at Joe's Pub, and
really
his thing is like, it was just a double bill kind of thing. But I'm just trying to remember all the different. I mean, just the noise maker scene that he comes from is so wonderful. I mean, like so many evocative sounds, and I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of I mean, playing
Wow, I
the
didn't know.
glass harmonica at a really high level, or playing, like very, very cool. And then Paola, I've gotten to play some of her music with Jeff Ziegler,
Yeah.
and I not a ton, but it's been really wonderful to get to know them. But the first time I met her was so random and so wonderful. It was, I live in Princeton now, as you know, but I was visiting
Right.
Princeton. I was making an album with Steve Mackey. We were doing like an improv like album.
Sweet.
It was really fun. I was really young and first met him, and Paola was figuring out her grad school scene, and she was in town to like have a coffee with Steve. And we're in the middle of our session. Steve's like, "Shit, I gotta get to Panera. Like, I gotta meet Paola. Like, I gotta get there." He's like, "You should just come along." And I'm like, "What?" So like we roll into Panera late for his like meeting with Paola, and I'm sure she's like, why is the drummer here?
Like I'm not suing or anything.
Yeah, yeah. It was so nice to meet her because she's so wonderful. But it was such a funny way to. We'll have so many stories of fun people. Okay, so before you've been conducting an opera, you play piano, you use your voice, you like, I feel like even when I met you at Soci, it was like you were playing piano and a lot of stuff we were working on, and then we were doing some Pauline Oliveros music, and it's like, oh, like, Raquel's like an expert in tuning meditation, has been leading them worldwide or whatever. And then like, oh, Raquel's doing this, Raquel, how do you even describe your practice in this just kind of wonderful omnivorous way, or do you have do you start with somewhere?
It's so hard to say. Like if somebody asks me like, what do you do? I always have a hard time saying what I do because my primary instrument is my voice. But like, what do I do with my voice? Oh, I sing opera. Oh, I sing classical music. Oh, I sing jazz. Oh, I sing and studied Arabic music. Like what? I don't, I'd have to elaborate a little bit so I don't leave it out. But at the same time, who has time for that?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you introduce yourself as a vocalist who does all these other things.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, depends. I feel like different contexts invite different things. But while I would say my primary instrument is my voice, I have many different roles that I occupy, whether it be like a conductor, an instrumentalist, or vocalist, or at times a visual art person.
Awesome. All right. Well, then I think I'm doing good when somebody asks me. I think that's how I basically say it. It's like a blah, 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 blah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no elevator pitch on who Raquel is. It's like, no, that's a good way to be. So Brooklyn Bound, we're excited about it. We've talked about multiple things, and I think in the future you had an idea of maybe putting together some Joyce Eastman together in the future, which would be so wonderful.
For sure.
I've never played Gay Gorilla, and I love the idea of finding a way for that to happen.
Awesome. Yeah.
But in the shorter term, there's a set coming up in March, and what are you doing, or do you know what you're doing?
So what I was thinking of doing, since I don't normally get to do, especially since the pandemic, is I'm gonna improvise, but you're gonna hear a little bit of some piano treated electronically through my computer, as well as some singing. I'm pointing to something that you can't see, which is my mic.
Over there.
You're going to see some singing happening over there that will come from me, but yet be over there.
Awesome. Love it. Offstage singing. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I like to use my computer. I think of my computer as an instrument in itself. And even since, this summer, I've, initialized all of my software programs and my technology so that I can actually do that straight into whether it be like a live set, a live digital set, or just something that I can record. So I'm really looking forward to just being able to create a sound world for Brooklyn Bound and getting to do the things that I feel like closely, relate to what I like to do musically. If you just sat me down, if I had a free day and wanted to just jam and make music, it would be employing these devices.
I love that. So I feel like now in the future, when somebody's like, "Oh, Raquel, I think I know Raquel. What does Raquel do?" It'd be like, "Please go to Brooklyn Bound. If you watch this, this is an introductory course, and this is what Raquel would do on a day."
Right.
She does. She does a little
Right,
this
right. My
offstage
happy
voice.
place. Yeah, exactly.
And do you on Brooklyn Bound, are we gonna see this image, which I would love because this is how I know you,
Right.
or are we gonna see you make these beautiful animations? Are we seeing you
It's a good
improvise, or are we
question.
seeing you and I have no ulterior motive with it. I like both answers. So
Right. Are
what are you
you
thinking?
saying you're not trying to just solely say like make an animation?
No, I'm actually saying please don't make an animation. No. I'm saying neither of those things. I'm saying both are really
Right,
wonderful.
right.
What are you thinking? No, I'm actually
Um,
honest because seeing improvisers make sound is really wonderful, because
yeah,
especially like when you're in a space and then like, especially when it has to do with computer and voice and, seeing that happen
it's
is really
true.
wonderful. But I really, really love your video animation practice. So
Yeah, I gotta think about it. I'm still to TBD.
I think we can let
TBD.
that be a surprise. I
Yeah.
think that's totally fine. I think
Will
that's
you
great.
see this face or no?
Yeah, or will you have
Maybe
to go to
both.
the podcast? It's good,
Right.
We need reasons
Yeah.
to send people to this
Cliffhanger.
amazing content.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And what's your computer? I love and I totally understand the idea of like, so your computer is one of your instruments.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
when we were to look inside your computer, what would we see? Like, is Ableton your instrument, or are you a Max person, or are you a
None of
GarageBand
those
person?
things.
Yeah, are you
Well,
a
I mean, so for me, this is the running joke in terms of what I do when I use my computer is I like to use programs that I don't do this purposefully, like I promise you, but the programs that I end up using are ones uh, that aren't intended for what I use them for.
so into it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, for
So yeah.
example, for example,
For example, I use this program called Audio Hijack, which is actually just a digital recording device. It's
mm,
essentially like if you wanted to take any computer audio, let's say I don't condone this activity, but if you wanted to watch like a YouTube video and you're like really like something, you can record the
for
audio from
example,
it.
right?
Bad example to use. But what I like to do is I'll plug
You mean
my
like a so
interface.
album? Like
Yeah.
you could just grab it.
Are
For
you alluding
example,
to something
I don't
here?
know. For example,
Yeah. Yes, you can do that.
you could do
I
that.
haven't done it. All right.
No. Love it. Okay, but then
But
what
you
do you?
can.
How do you
Um,
trick it into being interesting?
so I take that remains to be seen. So no, I plug my interface into my computer, and the audio source is my microphone. Sometimes I'll set my microphone to my piano so that what happens is Audio Hijack becomes the equivalent of just plugging in a bunch of different effects pedals. So I use different modules within that program to offset the pitch or create like a harmonizing line, or add a lot of reverb or create a delay, or create some distortion. It's just so much fun to experiment with. And what ends up happening as a result is I can create like a choral orchestral type sound just by using, one little like YouTube recording device
Love it.
um,
I love it.
through my
Yeah.
computer. That gives
Oh
you a
no,
taste.
I really really dig that. I love the idea of tricking things into doing things they're not supposed to do. It's just a real.
Yes.
I feel like as a starting point, then seeing where that goes is so satisfying.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
For sure.
Oh well, very cool. I think
Yeah.
I didn't actually I think what you're describing is probably what I imagined could be something that you would but I think I didn't know because we had this other idea that we're like will
Yeah,
happen in the future. So this is
for
so
sure.
wonderful to get a glimpse into. Okay, so I'm psyched about that. Um,
Yeah,
I have two more questions for you that we always
totally.
get to afterwards. And so we we start heavy and then we get light. That's the way these two questions work.
Gotcha.
The we've been in this pandemic for a long time. It's pretty much.
You could say that.
Yeah, I think it's been a long time. It hasn't quite been a year, but there was the Josh just sent a text of like the second to last show did before the pandemic was in Trinidad, and like the
Wow.
year, the Facebook year thing came up of like, whoa, a year ago we were,
Right.
right, wow,
So
crazy.
crazy.
um so like for the first few months of pandemic, all of us, I imagine, thinking like what's an artist's role right now, how is this changing me as an artist, what is my space here. Then George Floyd's murder and Black Lives Matter conversations that obviously have been going on much longer than 9 months, but in contemporary music circles and in some of my circles are heightened. The conversations are heightened. And so then, what's a role of an artist in that space? And then election time, just these like, monumental things that all don't really have another parallel necessarily, but then all coming together, just feels like, a really, crazy moment to think about ourselves as artists. And I know for myself, even depending on the day, I have a different answer of like, what I do is so important. I need to stop doing what I'm doing and go help somebody directly. I can't think about making the music the same way I used to. Oh no, I'm really confident in the way I used to do. Like every day I'm changing the way I'm feeling about this moment. Like how have you been processing this space, or has it changed your practice in any way? Or
well, what's really interesting, especially the way you framed it, is that I feel like this pandemic has helped for everybody contextualize what has been my mission and just purpose in life as a musician. I always, when I talk about things like this, I always start with the framework of, and I'm sure Angelica has talked about this too, that a few years ago, this was like the first year of Trump's presidency, where this hurricane passed through Puerto Rico, and my family that lives there was totally affected by it. But an entire island of people that are part of the US not only witnessed like a horrific natural disaster and suffered from it, but were completely neglected by our country. And so that was like a huge, just like punch in the face to me and my family. And as a result, seeing something to that scale, there's something that I've started to notice as a pattern when things like this happen, where I try to use my skill set, whatever I specialize in, I want to use that as a way to create a response or to help galvanize people and communities. And so in response to that hurricane, for example, I produced like a series of concerts that only raised money to benefit the victims of the hurricane, that would go directly to hurricane victims. Angelica was a part of that. The reason why I mentioned that is to say that when the pandemic hit, it was like a resurgence of all of these things that I just immediately respond to. There's like a weird adrenaline rush that happens to me. As soon as like the world is in crisis, I suddenly have this moment of clarity, and I know like, okay, I'm a musician, I'm a producer, what can I do? Oh, I know. And so in the beginning of the pandemic, it was literally like the first, I've probably said this to you in the past, but it was like March 12th or something. I was supposed to perform at Big Ears, and like the festivals were like the first indicators to me of the pandemic that it was like happening. And so as soon as they canceled that festival, I like literally like 30 seconds after I got that email, I was like, oh, I got to start a festival. And the reason why I wanted to was not just, it was for two reasons, was to raise money for people who I knew were going to be out of work for a long time when, the arts get shut down. So I knew that in my practice as a musician and as like a community builder through music, because that's a huge part of my practice as a musician, I wanted to create a festival that would have a direct support system for musicians. So I partnered with New Music USA, created a fundraising concert for them, banded together with Claire Chase, banded together with International Contemporary Ensemble, banded together with American Composers Orchestra and Ed Yim and all of these people, and said like, hey, I'm starting this festival called Music on the Rebound as a way to not only just create live interactive events for people to come together, address these like very, sudden traumatic feelings, but also to support people that I know are going to be in need and not have resources. So that is one part of the idea. Before the pandemic, I was supposed to be, I was involved, a project that was supposed to happen before the pandemic started was called Reparations Now, and it was addressing the just longstanding racism in this country, and the need for, giving voice to Black composers and people of color. And so on that program, we had Angelica, Allison Loggins Hull, Courtney Bryan, Trevor Weston, and a whole slew of people. And so the first project that I got to do in person during this pandemic was that. Since it had been, they decided to bring that concert into October. We did it in October. So all of these themes of like giving voice to underrepresented people and people that are in crisis are a huge part of what I do as a musician. And I'm just grateful that as like in the new music community that we've been able to respond to all of these things that have been just like, you know, they've always been present. Like they're just a part of like an unfortunate part of our fabric, you know, as a society. But I'm glad that we are able to use music, which is an art form, to give voice to these things in a very meaningful way, and to bring people together as like this tangible connector and exchanger of ideas. So that just, I don't think that provides you a full response, but it's a part of the response and a part of, you know, what I do, incorporating music into what are very important and forever, you know, have been important.
Well, no, it did.
Yeah.
I think it does provide a response. I mean, in some ways, it feels to me like what you're saying is that both in terms of like in terms of the pandemic, in terms of like mass tragedy on that level, and in terms of social issues of giving voice to those who need it or don't have it, or those are things that you were thinking about before March. It's not, you know, or not only thinking about, but you were acting on before March. And so almost like where some of us maybe when this started is like, oh, what can we do? How can we do more? A little bit, you're saying like your call to action was like, oh, I've done this. Let
well,
like you know. I mean, no. I'm not saying that you even said it in that way, but just that like no, that you had a really wonderful direct space to go to in a way of like when you mentioned the adrenaline, I really love that,
like,
you know,
I feel like I think music just it's one of the things that I'm grateful for, to have like an artistic community. It's like we have in our DNA as musicians a capacity to just generate conversations, envision, you know, better reality for everybody, and a capacity to like see, you know, use our imagination and create positive spaces for everybody, cultural change makers and all of that. So I don't think those two things are dissociated from the other. I think musical practice is very much embedded in that.
Amazing.
So yeah.
So much more to talk about there.
I know.
over drinks and food. Yeah, right? Totally. No, in real life. I want to. Yes.
It's true.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But so in another way, I mean, in the lighter last question, that's but also in terms of just thinking about the before times, the way I think about it is that and I imagine this is the way. Well, I don't know. Tell me if this resonates. The being together, performing, the sharing space is, to me, so important about the reason why I'm a music maker. I've enjoyed finding ways to be creative in this remote space, but I'm not looking forward to that being my life in music, you know, like the sharing space and being with my bandmates, right? And so, you know, so much of that when we're on tour or when we're playing shows is like these, you know, the stories that we share of the, you know, the night before this happened on stage, and, you know, and you were there for me in this way, or this crazy thing happened in the hall, or this instrument fell apart on stage, and so we did that, like whatever the stories are, you know? And they almost like form like a I don't know, it's just our tour bonding, you know. So what is a fun, where do you go to with the story, either a kind of like, you know, really wonderfully transcendent experience you had, or the like, you know,
there's so many,
the crazy shit that happened, or totally. I know, you get more than one if you want to, you get it, or you know,
can I give you like
a few? Yeah.
I once played hooky in college to go sing in Music Now.
Amazing. So this is in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, yeah. And because my friend, I don't know if you know Glenn Hansard.
Yeah. Hey, we were at that. We were at that festival.
That's right.
Yeah. That's the
Oh
first time I
my
saw Glenn Hansard
God.
sing. I think, oh, because oh, sorry, I'm taking your, but his string. I remember his show. Is this right? Were you
I
guys on
sang with him.
stage?
Well,
Yeah,
BYC was a part of that, and then
yeah,
he brought me. That's so funny.
yeah. I was
I
there.
can't believe it. Okay, we need to have more conversation.
Yeah, what's it? Because his string broke. Is this part of it?
I
Right?
mean, it always breaks.
Yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah.
concert he does that, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
just remember how wonderfully he handled that moment because the crowd was just loving. He was tuning his guitar, but singing. So it was all wonderful. Okay, cool. So
He's a
I'm here.
great,
I'm
yeah.
ready.
He's like that'll happen, and he'll like just continue like air guitaring while he'll play, depending on like the tech team that's like at the show or whatever.
Yeah.
I just remember a couple of times where, I mean, this is an aside, but he was playing like a very, I mean, a lot of his songs, but there's one particular song where it's like pretty intense, and it got to like the climax of the song, and like his string broke, and it's just like deteriorating as he's playing, which just made it even better.
Yeah,
Like, you were
yeah,
just totally captivated and pulled in. That aside,
okay, so I'm in the space. I'm there. I'm ready for this story.
So Glenn texted me. He was like, "Hey, I'm playing music now. Like, you should come. I hear that Brooklyn Youth Chorus is singing. It would be so great to like have you there." And so it was like a beautiful moment where all of like my different, worlds collided as they do.
Yeah.
And I remember getting in. This is again another testament to going to school in a very, very isolated, horrible place. It took me like 12 hours in what should have been like 4
Were you
to
busing
get to
it?
Ohio. I took like a 3-hour bus ride to get to like a random airport in the middle
Oh
of
my
New York.
goodness. Yeah.
Took a flight to Chicago because it was the only place that I could go. Then got into Cincinnati at like 4 a.m. Got into like the hotel, like fell asleep, and then woke up to like a beautiful meal with like Glenn. Oh, that's where I met Buchan Gase too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, that's so though. I just
all the things.
Yes. Well, all the errands.
Yeah.
Not Buchan Gase because that's not their names. But anyway, so it was at this festival that, again, as I was telling you, like, when you're in Brooklyn Youth Chorus, you're still like you're not an adult, obviously, but here it was like so great to like be with the group that has been so much a part of my formative years as a kid, married with all of the people that I enjoy, that I also like became, friends with, close, wonderful group of people. So it just felt like all of my family's coming together. And so the last night of that festival, we all of the adults, I mean, the chorus, they had to go to bed, but
curfew.
There's a curfew. But, I was just getting to hang out with all of these people from, different places. It was great to see like Shara and my dear friend, I don't know if you know Laurel Sprengelmeyer, but she and Richard Reed Perry are
Little Scream.
Little Scream.
Yeah.
So it was there that she was like, because I was still, in college. It was like my first semester or second semester of college, and she asked me like, oh yeah, like what do you want to do once you finish school? And I was like, this. Like, I want to keep doing this,
This is so yeah.
So just getting to like, I don't know, it was like a perfect what's the word? An experience that kind of reflects, I feel like, my life in general, which is being like the starting in high school, just kind of having people that are much older than I am be very close friends of mine, who I've always just been more comfortable around, people that might not be the same age as I am. And so it was just nice. It's just always nice to like have this community to grow with, but also, be a part of.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was just like a nice way to like not be in college mode where that's like specific. You're with like practically teenagers. Yeah. and then have, be with adults again. Like I had missed that.
Yeah.
So that was really nice.
Well, and as far as just thinking of pre-pandemic days, those kinds of festivals are just that's like one of the things I miss the most. Just like, you know, seeing so much great music, participating in cool music, the crossover that happens in those moments,
Totally.
the sharing. That's
Yeah.
so lovely.
In fact, like after that concert, Laurel like gave me I stayed in her apartment in Montreal because it was and helped like move Arcade Fire's studio to like some basement because
Awesome.
Montreal was like the closest thing to my college. And so I
Oh
was just like,
yeah, okay.
I couldn't, there was like there was nothing in my college area. There was just like a restaurant. There was no cultural life whatsoever. So it was just nice to go to Montreal and like visit and have people to visit there. All of this is to say is that I think one of the best parts of being in the music world is that you could go to any place in the world and have people that you can share such meaningful and wonderful life experiences with. It doesn't even have to just be musical. It's like you can have dinner with these people.
Yeah.
And I just, I miss that. I definitely miss just exploring.
You did well. That was the perfect answer. You had me ready. I'm just so ready. We're all so ready, you know. We're all so ready. But I'm also ready and very excited to hear what you're going to do in March and ready to do more things after that. But this, you know, I think, you know, you've been around. We get together on YouTube. We're in the chat. We say, hey, I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah.
7 p.m. I think these things are always 7 p.m. I'm not sure why, but that's when they are. 7 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, it's random. 7 p.m. Eastern time, March 11th.
It's a nice feeling of like, here we're at a show, we're at like a hang, you know?
Yeah, we're at a hang.
You do an amazing job of bringing and cultivating that sense of that environment, which I do miss. I think one of the last shows that I went to before the pandemic hit was a Brooklyn Bound at the studio.
Yay.
So
Okay.
It's nice to bring that back.
I'm ready for that too. I'm ready for that again too. Well, it's gonna be a fun night. Actually, many of them, of course. So Pathos Trio is playing, which is wonderful. You mentioned Allison Logan's Hall. We're gonna show a video that she made with Sandbox of a piece she wrote for flute and percussion, which is that's gonna start off the show. And then we're doing some music that you know of mine, Go Placidly music at the end. Sweet. And Angelica is gonna sing over one of those pieces. So it's gonna be a fun, and you know, some friends will be sitting in on that music too. So it's gonna be a fun night. It's gonna be really, really wonderful.
Oh my God. I can't wait.
You ready? You'll be there. Everybody should come. Come check it out. Yay.
For sure. Hang with us.
Hang with us, please. It's good to hang. Raquel, it's so good to talk to you.
Oh my God. Same.
Yeah.
Always.
I'll see you. I'll see you online in a couple weeks.
See you in the virtual realm. Right?
See you in the chat. Awesome. Thanks for doing this.
Well.
You're the best.
Of course.
You too.
Anytime.
Stay safe and be well.
Soon.
Bye.